She agreed to help a friend, never expecting who the client would be. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The soft hum of conversation drifts through the room, mixed with the gentle clink of silverware. Warm light spills across polished tables where every plate looks like a work of art. This is the kind of place where people arrive with confidence, where shoes never scuff the floor, where everyone seems to belong. She does not. She pauses just inside the doorway, fingers tightening around the strap of her worn shoulder bag. The glass reflects her back at her, second-hand dress carefully pressed, shoes cleaned as best as she could manage. She takes a slow breath and reminds herself why she is here. She is only helping a friend. Just one night, just one client. Her phone buzzes in her hand. "I owe you," her friend had said earlier, voice rushed, almost pleading. "I am stuck. Can you cover this for me? Just tonight. Please." She had hesitated. She always does. Saying yes has never been easy when rent is due and every shift matters. But she had said yes anyway, because that is who she is. Because favors have a way of coming back around, or at least that is what she tells herself. She scans the room, eyes moving from table to table. The place feels too quiet, too expensive. Her heart beats a little faster with each step. Table 12, she reminds herself. Private client. Be polite. Do your job. Leave. At the far end of the room, a man sits alone. He is not looking at his phone. He is not drinking. He sits still, composed, jacket tailored to fit him perfectly, hands resting calmly on the table, as if he owns not just the chair, but the space around it. There is something about him that makes the air feel heavier, quieter. She swallows. This must be him. She approaches, rehearsing her words in her head. Smile. Greet him. Keep it professional. Do not let nerves show. "Good evening," she says, her voice steadier than she feels. "I am here to take care of you tonight." He looks up. For a brief moment their eyes meet, and something unspoken passes between them. Surprise, maybe. Curiosity. He studies her, not in the way men usually do in places like this, but as if he is trying to understand something he did not expect. "You are not who I was expecting," he says calmly. Her stomach tightens. "I am filling in for a friend," she explains quickly. "She asked me to help her tonight." He pauses, as if considering whether to say more. Somewhere in the distance, glasses clink again. Laughter rises and fades. "That is fine," he finally says. "Please sit." She hesitates. This was not part of the plan. She was supposed to stand, to serve, to remain invisible. But he gestures to the chair across from him, and for reasons she cannot explain, she obeys. As she sits, she notices the small details. The watch on his wrist, the way his posture never slouches, the quiet confidence that does not need to announce itself. She tells herself again, silently, that he is just a client. She does not know that this man is a billionaire. She does not know that this moment, this simple favor, will unravel everything she thought she understood about her life. All she knows is that she agreed to help a friend, and that agreement has just placed her at the wrong table, in front of the wrong man, at exactly the right moment. She keeps her hands folded in her lap as she sits across from him, reminding herself again that this is temporary. One evening, one favor, nothing more. But her mind refuses to stay quiet. Rent is due in 11 days. The number repeats itself in her head like a ticking clock. 11 days until the polite reminder turns into a late notice. 11 days until her landlord stops smiling when he sees her in the hallway. She had calculated it carefully that morning at her small kitchen table, pen tapping against a notepad, coffee gone cold beside her. Even with extra shifts, even with tips stretched as far as they could go, she is still short. That is why she said yes to her friend. Not because she wanted to be here, not because she felt brave, because saying no felt more dangerous than saying yes. She glances down briefly, noticing the faint ink stain on her finger that never quite washes off. It comes from the notebook she carries everywhere, the one filled with half-finished sketches and lists that all begin the same way. Someday. Someday I will leave this life. Someday I will have something of my own. Someday is not today. Across from her, the man remains quiet. He does not rush her. He does not interrupt the silence the way most clients do. That makes her more aware of herself, of the way her shoulders tense, of how carefully she chooses every breath. She tells herself to focus on the role she is playing tonight: professional, polite, invisible. This is how she survives. She has learned to read people quickly, to notice tone shifts, small expressions, the signs that tell her whether someone will be kind or cruel. Years of working service jobs have taught her that skill better than any class ever could. It is how she learned when to smile wider and when to speak less. But this man is harder to read. He does not look at her like she is beneath him. He does not look at her like she is entertainment. He looks at her like she is simply there. The thought unsettles her. She thinks about her friend again, rushing out of her apartment earlier, apologizing over and over, promising to repay the favor. She had laughed it off then, pretending it did not matter. She had said she could handle it. Now, sitting here, she wonders if that was true. Her life feels like a careful balancing act. One missed step, one bad week, and everything could slide out from under her. She has no safety net, no family money, no one waiting to catch her if she falls. Every decision carries weight, even the small ones, especially the small ones. Helping a friend should not feel like this. One client should not feel like this. Yet something about tonight feels different, like a door she did not mean to open has already started to swing wider. She straightens her posture slightly, reminding herself again why she is here. This is not about him. It is about survival. It is about keeping her head above water just a little longer. She does not know his name. She does not know his position. She certainly does not know his power. And that ignorance is the only thing allowing her to sit here at all. If she knew who he really was, she might have walked away before she ever crossed the room. If she understood what kind of man she was facing, she might have chosen fear over politeness. Instead, she stays. Because for her, tonight is not about destiny or romance or fate. It is about bills and borrowed time, and the quiet determination to keep going, even when the ground feels unsteady beneath her feet. She exhales slowly, lifting her eyes to meet his again. For now, he is just a client, and she is just a woman doing a favor for a friend. Neither of them realizes that this fragile balance is already beginning to shift. She reaches into her bag slowly, almost without thinking, and feels the familiar edge of the notebook beneath her fingers. The cover is soft from years of use, corners bent, spine creased in a way that only comes from being carried everywhere. It is heavier than it should be, not in weight, but in meaning. She does not usually let anyone see it. The notebook is not just paper and ink. It is proof that she is more than the jobs she works, more than the uniforms she wears. Inside it are half-finished sketches, floor plans for a tiny cafe she dreams of owning someday, handwritten reminders to herself not to give up. It is where she goes when the world feels too loud. She pulls it out now, only because she needs something to ground her hands. He notices, of course. "What is that?" he asks, his voice calm, curious, not demanding. She hesitates. This is not something clients ask about. Most never look past the surface, never care what she carries with her. For a second, she considers brushing it off with a vague answer, sliding the notebook back into her bag. Instead, she tells the truth. "It is just something I keep with me," she says. "I write and draw when I have time." "When you have time," he repeats softly. She gives a small, almost embarrassed smile. That part does not happen very often. She opens the notebook just enough to reveal a page. A pencil sketch of a small storefront, sunlight drawn in through wide front windows, tables close together, plants hanging from the ceiling. The lines are careful but hopeful, as if she drew it while believing it might someday exist. "This is what you do?" he asks. "It is what I want to do," she corrects gently. There is a difference. She knows it. He seems to sense it too. She explains without meaning to, words coming easier now, how she has always drawn, how she works long hours and sketches late at night when the apartment is quiet, how the notebook reminds her that this life is not the final version of herself. He listens, truly listens. He does not interrupt. He does not smile politely and look away. That alone feels strange enough to make her pause. "You keep this with you everywhere?" he asks. She nods. It reminds me who I am when everything else tries to tell me who I should be. The room feels quieter now, as if the rest of the world has softened around them. She realizes she has said too much and quickly closes the notebook, tucking it back into her bag like a secret she almost revealed. "I am sorry," she says. "That was probably not appropriate." "It was," he replies. "It was honest." That word lingers between them. Honest. She shifts slightly in her seat, unsure what to do with that. Honesty has rarely felt safe in her life. It is something she usually keeps hidden, folded carefully between responsibilities. She looks at him again, really looks this time. There is something restrained in the way he carries himself, as if he is used to being watched, measured. She wonders what he keeps hidden. Everyone has something. The moment passes, fragile and brief, but it leaves something behind. A sense that this is no longer just a transaction, not entirely. She reminds herself again why she is here. This is a favor. This is temporary. She cannot afford to misread situations like this. She cannot afford to hope. And yet, the notebook rests against her side, warm from her hand, as if quietly insisting that this moment matters. Neither of them says anything for a few seconds. In that silence, something small but important takes root. A seed planted without intention. A truth shared before either of them understands the cost of it. She has no idea that this simple notebook, this quiet confession, will one day be returned to her in a way she never imagined. For now, it is just paper and pencil, and she is still just helping a friend. The server passes quietly nearby, refilling glasses, clearing plates, but neither of them seems to notice. Time stretches in a way that feels unfamiliar to her, as if the evening has slowed down just enough to make room for something unexpected. She reminds herself again to stay focused. This is still work. This is still a favor. She adjusts the strap of her bag against her shoulder, preparing to stand, to return to the role she knows so well. But before she can, he speaks. "You do not have to rush," he says, "if you are allowed to sit for a moment longer." Allowed. The word almost makes her smile. It has been a long time since anyone framed her presence as a choice rather than an obligation. "I can stay a little longer," she replies carefully, "as long as you do not mind." "I do not." The simplicity of his answer disarms her. They talk then, not about work, not about why they are there, but about small things, neutral things, safe things. The city outside, the way the weather shifts without warning, how crowded places can still feel lonely if no one is really looking at you. She surprises herself by laughing once, softly, when he makes a dry observation about the menu. It is not a joke exactly, but it is enough to ease something tight in her chest. She notices how he listens, not politely, not impatiently. He does not glance at his watch or scan the room. When she speaks, his attention stays with her, steady and undivided. That alone feels like a gift she is not used to receiving. "What made you agree to help your friend tonight?" he asks at one point. The question catches her off guard. Most people never ask why she does things. They assume the answer is obvious. "She needed me," she says simply, "and I needed the extra money." There is no shame in her voice, just fact. He nods, as if that answer matters. She considers asking him something in return, then hesitates. Questions feel dangerous. Knowing too much about clients has never served her well. It makes it harder to keep distance, harder to stay detached. Still, curiosity slips out before she can stop it. "And you?" she asks. "What brought you here tonight?" He pauses, just for a moment. It is subtle, but she notices. A careful calculation behind his eyes, like someone choosing the right words. "Business," he says, but not the kind most people imagine. She does not press. She has learned when to let silence do the work. Instead, she nods and accepts the answer as it is. In a strange way, the restraint makes her trust him more. Everyone has boundaries. Respecting them feels rare. As the conversation continues, she finds herself forgetting to be careful, forgetting to measure each word. She speaks more freely than she intended, sharing small pieces of herself without revealing too much. He does the same, offering glimpses without giving the whole picture. Neither of them realizes they are both doing the same thing, hiding in plain sight. At some point, she stands to leave, instincts finally reasserting themselves. She cannot stay here forever. She should not want to. "I should get back," she says. "Thank you for being patient with me." He stands as well, unhurried. "Thank you for staying." Their eyes meet again, and for a brief second, the world narrows to the space between them. She feels it then, unmistakably. This is not just another shift, not just another client. Something has shifted, quietly, without permission. She turns away before she can overthink it, walking back toward the service area. With each step, her heartbeat feels louder, as if trying to remind her of something she is not ready to admit. She tells herself she will forget this moment by tomorrow, that it will fade into the long list of nights she barely remembers. But as she reaches the doorway and glances back one last time, she sees him watching her, thoughtful, unreadable. And she knows, deep down, that this encounter is not finished. It has only just begun. She expects the rest of the night to blur together the way shifts usually do. Orders taken, plates cleared, polite smiles exchanged and forgotten. That is how it always ends. But this night refuses to behave. When her shift finally ends, the restaurant has thinned out. The polished room feels larger now, quieter, almost hollow. She ties her coat, checks her phone, and exhales in relief. One favor completed. One more night survived. She does not expect to see him again. Yet there he is, standing near the entrance as if he never left, jacket draped over his arm, expression calm but intent. He does not block her path. He does not step too close. "I was hoping to speak with you," he says. Her first instinct is caution. Old habits rise quickly. Conversations after hours have never led anywhere good for her. She should politely decline. She should go home. Instead, she hears herself say, "For a minute." They step outside together. The city air is cooler now, carrying the sound of distant traffic and the hum of streetlights. It feels less formal out here, less like a place where roles are assigned and followed. "I wanted to thank you," he says, "not for the service, for the conversation." She shifts her weight slightly. "You do not owe me anything." "I know," he replies. "That is why it matters." They walk a short distance without deciding to, side by side. No destination, just movement. The sidewalk stretches ahead of them, lit in soft pools of yellow light. She tells him she usually walks home to save money. He nods, matching her pace without comment. That small gesture surprises her more than she expects. They talk again, but differently now. Easier, less guarded. She tells him about the tiny apartment she shares with peeling paint and unreliable heat. She laughs about it, the way she always does, but he hears the truth beneath the humor. He tells her about pressure, about expectations, about how people often see what he provides long before they see who he is. He does not give details. He does not name titles. He does not need to. She recognizes the feeling anyway. At one point, she stops walking. A small park opens up beside them, benches empty, trees whispering softly in the night air. She sits without thinking, pulling her notebook from her bag again. It feels less like a secret now. She flips to a page near the back and shows him something she has never shown anyone in this city. A rough plan, measurements written in pencil, a note in the margin that reads, "Small, but mine." "This is where I would put the counter," she says quietly. "And the window here. I want people to feel welcome, like they can breathe." He studies the page carefully, as if it matters, as if it is real. "You could do this," he says. The certainty in his voice almost makes her flinch. "Someday," she replies automatically. He looks at her then, really looks at her. "Someday is closer than you think." She shakes her head, smiling. She has heard encouragement before. It never changes the math. Still, the way he says it stays with her. They sit there longer than either of them intended. When she finally stands, she feels lighter and heavier all at once. Connected, but aware of the risk. "I should go," she says softly. He nods. "I hope we meet again." She believes him. That scares her more than she wants to admit. As she walks away, notebook tucked safely under her arm, she does not realize that this quiet evening has already bound their paths together. She thinks she is returning to her life. She does not yet know that he is already planning how to step back into it. The invitation arrives 2 days later. It is not dramatic, no envelope, no flourish, just a simple message forwarded through her friend, asking if she can help again. A private event, one evening, better pay than usual. She hesitates longer this time. Something about the night they shared still lingers with her, like a song she cannot quite forget. She tells herself it is foolish to read into it. People pass through each other's lives all the time. Meaning is something we assign after the fact. Still, she agrees. The venue is nothing like the restaurant. The building rises above the street in glass and steel, lights glowing against the early evening sky. Valets line the entrance. Guests step out of black cars dressed in confidence and certainty. She smooths her dress instinctively, suddenly aware of how small she feels standing there. Inside, the room hums with energy. Not the casual murmur of dinner, but the sharp, purposeful sound of influence. Conversations pause and resume like waves. Names are exchanged. Laughter is practiced. She keeps her head down, doing exactly what she was asked to do. Serve, assist, stay out of the way. She does not expect to see him here. At first, she only hears the shift in the room, a subtle change. Voices lowering, attention turning. She follows the movement with her eyes, tray balanced carefully in her hands. And then she sees him. He stands at the front of the room now, no longer quiet, no longer hidden. The same man who walked beside her under streetlights now wears a tailored suit that fits him like authority. People lean toward him, wait for him, respect him. Her breath catches. Someone nearby speaks his name, followed by a title that makes her chest tighten. Chief Executive Officer, Founder, Billionaire. The words land slowly, each one heavier than the last. She freezes. Every moment from before rushes back in an instant. The way he listened, the way he spoke about pressure and expectations, the careful pauses, the restraint. It was not mystery, it was control. Her fingers tighten around the tray. She feels exposed, foolish, suddenly aware of every word she shared, every piece of herself she revealed, without knowing who was truly listening. Applause breaks out around her as he begins to speak. She barely hears the words. The room blurs at the edges. All she can see is him, standing confidently in a world that has never once made room for her. This is who he is, and she understands now what she was to him. A favor, a curiosity, a mistake. Her throat tightens as anger replaces shock, not because he is wealthy, not because he is powerful, but because he let her believe they were equals when he knew they were not. She sets the tray down carefully, afraid her hands might shake if she does not. She turns away from the crowd, pushing through the space between guests who do not notice her leaving. Outside, the night air feels colder than it should. She draws in a sharp breath, trying to steady herself. Behind her, she hears footsteps. He calls her name. She stops, but does not turn around. "You should have told me," she says, her voice low but steady. "I had the right to know who I was sitting across from." There is a pause before he answers. "I did not plan for it to happen that way." "That does not make it better," she replies. "It makes it worse." She finally turns to face him, eyes bright with hurt she refuses to hide. "You saw me as I was. I never saw you as you were." For the first time since she met him, he looks unsure. And in that moment, whatever fragile balance once held them together finally breaks. She does not wait for his explanation. She turns away again, this time without hesitation, and walks toward the street as if the distance itself might protect her. Her footsteps are quick at first, then uneven. She tells herself not to cry, not here, not where he can see it. Behind her, he follows, but he does not touch her. He does not grab her arm or raise his voice. That restraint almost makes it harder. "You are right," he says quietly. "You did have the right to know." She stops walking. The city noise fills the space between them. A car horn in the distance, the rush of people who have no idea what just broke inside her. She turns slowly, eyes sharp now, defensive. "Then why did you not tell me?" she asks. "At the restaurant, on the street, any of those times." He takes a breath, as if choosing honesty over comfort. "Because when you sat with me, you did not see the title. You did not see the money. You saw a person. That does not happen often." She lets out a short, humorless laugh. "So I was an experiment?" "No," he says immediately. "You were not a test. You were real." "That makes it worse," she replies. "You let me open up while you stayed protected. You knew exactly how much power you had, and you kept it hidden." Her voice does not rise, but every word carries weight. She has learned over time that quiet anger is harder to dismiss. He nods slowly. "I was wrong." The admission lands softly, but it does not fix anything. She looks at him now and sees the distance clearly. the invisible line she did not know existed before. Everything she shared, every moment that felt mutual, now feels tilted, unbalanced. "I do not belong in that room," she says, gesturing back toward the building. "And you knew it." He hesitates. "I knew the room did not matter." "It matters to me," she answers. "It always has." Silence settles again, thicker this time. She feels exhausted by it, by the explanations, by the way his words keep circling what cannot be undone. She reaches into her bag and pulls out her notebook. For a moment, she considers handing it to him, then thinks better of it. Instead, she holds it close to her chest, a shield. "That night," she says, "when I showed you this, I thought you were seeing me, not studying me." He takes a small step back, as if giving her space. "I was seeing you." "Then respect me now," she replies. "Let me walk away." He looks like he wants to argue, to convince her, to promise something meaningful. But he does not. He nods once, slowly. "If you ever want to talk," he says, "I will listen." She meets his eyes one last time. "You already did. That is why this hurts." Then she turns and leaves, not running this time, but steady, resolute. Each step carries her further from the illusion she almost believed in. Behind her, he stays where he is, watching her disappear into the crowd, understanding too late that the woman he underestimated was the one who finally held the power to walk away. And for the first time in a very long time, she chooses herself. The days that follow feel heavier than she expects. She throws herself back into routine, taking extra shifts, filling every quiet moment with movement so she does not have to think. Morning coffee turns into evening exhaustion. Sketches stay unfinished. The notebook remains closed more often than not. She tells herself she did the right thing. Walking away was the only choice that allowed her to keep her dignity. Accepting his silence afterward should have been easy. This is how endings usually work in her life. Brief connections, no promises kept. Then the message comes. It does not come from him. It comes from a woman she has never met, polite and professional, asking if she would be willing to attend a small, private showing downtown. No pressure, no obligation, just an invitation, extended in her name. She almost deletes it. Curiosity stops her at the last second. The gallery is quiet when she arrives. Too quiet. White walls, soft lighting, the kind of place she usually only passes by, glancing in through glass she never crosses. She steps inside cautiously. Her breath catches. On the far wall, enlarged and framed, is a familiar sketch, her sketch. The small storefront with wide windows, the plants, the handwritten note in the corner, preserved exactly as she left it. Her notebook lies open on a pedestal nearby, protected beneath glass. For a moment, she cannot move. "This is yours," his voice says gently behind her. She turns slowly. He stands a few steps away. No suit this time, no crowd behind him. Just a man who looks uncertain, almost vulnerable. "I did not want to speak for you," he continues. "I did not want to ask forgiveness with words." She looks around the room again. Every piece is hers. Finished versions of ideas she thought would never leave paper. A future she only allowed herself to imagine quietly. "You had no right," she says, though her voice shakes. "You are right," he replies. "That is why everything here is yours. I did not buy it. I funded the space. The credit, the ownership, all of it belongs to you." She feels anger rise, followed closely by fear. "I do not want charity." "This is not charity," he says softly. "This is correction." He takes a breath. "I used my position to hide. Tonight, I am using it to step back. You choose what happens next, not me." She studies his face, searching for arrogance, for control. She finds none. He gestures toward the wall. "Your work deserves to be seen, with or without me." The silence stretches. She walks closer to the glass, reading her own handwriting like it belongs to someone else. A woman who believed, even briefly, that something better was possible. "You did not ask for anything in return," she says. "No," he answers, "because that would make it about me." She closes her eyes. For the first time since she met him, she feels the power settle where it belongs. Not in wealth, not in titles, but in choice. When she opens her eyes again, she turns to face him. "This does not erase what happened," she says, "but it tells me who you are choosing to be now." He nods. That is all I hoped you would see. She takes one more look at the room, then at him. And for the first time since walking away, she does not feel small. She does not decide everything that night. That surprises her most of all. In the past, choices were always urgent. Take the shift or lose the money. Say yes or fall behind. Survive now, think later. But standing in that quiet gallery, surrounded by proof that her dreams were not foolish, she allows herself something unfamiliar. Time. She leaves without a promise, without a declaration, without letting the moment turn into something it is not ready to be. He does not follow her. He does not ask for reassurance. He lets her walk away with her future, still in her hands. That matters more than anything else. Weeks pass. The gallery opens to the public. People come. Not crowds at first, but enough. They stop. They look. They ask questions. Some of them write down her name. She hears it spoken with interest, with respect. She signs her first piece with hands that tremble only slightly. Her notebook no longer feels like a secret. It feels like a beginning. They see each other again, slowly, carefully. Coffee instead of dinners. Daylight instead of shadows. Conversations that begin and end honestly. He does not hide who he is now. She does not pretend to be smaller than she is. He listens. She watches. Trust rebuilds, not through words, but through consistency. One evening, long after the gallery has closed, they stand together beneath the soft glow of her work. The city hums outside, distant and unimportant. I did not expect you to come back, she admits. I did not expect you to let me, he answers. She smiles at that. It feels earned. He reaches into his jacket and pulls something out, then stops. He does not kneel. He does not perform. He simply holds it between them, open, waiting. I am not asking you to choose me over your life, he says. I am asking if you will let me walk beside you in it. She looks at the ring, simple and understated, then past it, to the man who finally learned how to stand without towering over her. She thinks of the night she agreed to help a friend, of the wrong table, of the wrong assumptions, of how close she came to shrinking herself again. Then she looks at her work on the walls, at the proof of what happens when someone is seen clearly and chooses not to disappear. Yes, she says, not because of what he can give her, but because of who he chose to become when it mattered. They marry quietly, no spectacle, no headlines, just people who matter and promises that are kept. Her gallery grows, his world changes. They meet in the middle, not as billionaire and worker, not as savior and saved, but as equals. And sometimes, when she tells the story, she laughs softly and says the same thing every time. The best thing she ever did was agree to help a friend. Because one small favor, done without expectation, led her not just to love, but to herself.